Welcome to the World Builders Anvil. This is episode 117, Notebooks of Doom. Don't know where to start building your fantasy world? Do you need more? Does it make sense? Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination. This is the place that will help prime your mind. Now, it's time to heat up the forge, break out the mithril ingots and hammer. Welcome to the World Builders Anvil. I'm your host, Jeffrey W. Ingram. Let's sup from the mug of Java and build. Welcome back. As always, I'm your host, Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Michael Fast Track Miller. What the hell was that?
I don't know. It was what came to mind.
Okay. You're like, in today's top 40. We're going to be talking about notebooks today.
Yes, because notebooks are an essential tool in my toolbox of tools.
I actually used to use the, I'm not going to spoil what you're about to say.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. But I used to use the very same thing for a lot of my creative endeavors.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty common thing that people write stuff down. In notebooks specifically. No, we're not spoiling yet.
Spoil it.
Okay. In composition notebooks.
Composition notebooks.
They're small, they're handy, they're lightweight. They carry around quite easily.
They're durable.
They're durable. Oh, yeah.
That's what the thing I always liked about using composition notebooks, because I would end up, they'd be in backpacks, they'd get beat up, they'd get tossed around, it spilled coffee on them. Yeah. And they pretty much stand up to the abuse.
And I did try some like 3-ring binders, and the papers get ripped out and they suck.
Or spirals, they just get.
Same kind of thing,
yeah,
but
thing.
And as you get deeper in the notebook, they become worse and worse. Oh, garbage. Well, maybe not for everyone, but for me specifically, I like specifically composition books due to the size.
So if you're not familiar with what we're referring to, go down to any stationery store, stop at Staples, ask them for composition books. These you would have seen these in high school and college. Just usually they're just a black and white kind of like a weird, I don't know, cow pattern on the cover.
Cow pattern.
It's probably a fair thing to say.
And the thing I like now is you can have various forms of cows.
Don't spoil it. It's on the list.
Okay. But,
actually, it is number one, though.
But we're not quite there. And one of the reasons I want to push people away from like handheld computer devices, and I have one. I have a Samsung Note, which I got specifically to do this kind of stuff in. Notes have a way of disappearing on those because you forget about them because they're stored electronically.
Yeah, they're buried.
I can deal with that next month.
Yeah, they're buried in a window somewhere.
Yeah, and the problem is usually if you're anything like me, your brain thinks faster than your ability to output information into written or a computer form. I can write it out faster than I can get it into an electronic format. You know.
I can generally type a little faster than I can write.
I know some people that might not be true, but it's not just for that short-term burst for a tweet. It's for potentially a lot.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I mean, if I'm sitting down, like I like the laptop. Mm-hmm. I definitely like a notebook. But I like the laptop just for the sake of if I have to expound on a bunch of stuff. It's faster for me to type.
And the other thing I like about these as well too is if you lose them and you follow my methodology here, you're not out any information. It will suck and you'll be annoyed. Trust me, because I have. But
losing notebooks is the worst.
If you follow my recommendations, you won't lose too much material unless it's the same day you've created.
Right. So before we even get into this, like, why did you think this was a whole episode topic? Like what?
Because I'm obsessed with it.
That's all.
That's it. Yeah.
So you're not trying to help our community.
I know I am because I find it very helpful to myself. Some of the tweaks I've made to just standard. I put everything in this one notebook, and as I come to it, and then I lose it within the notebook. Because if you're like me, as much as thinking like more quickly than you can talk or write. If you're like me, you also have so many different project ideas that come up that, it gets buried in, page 74 of a composition notebook. That's about something completely different. And you just came up with that at an inappropriate time. And then later on, you're like, oh, crap, that idea. Wait,
where was that idea?
Where did I put this?
Yeah.
So one way is to help prevent you from getting into that scenario.
You might cover this on the list somewhere, but I read the list and I didn't see it. I will do that. and I actually use highlighters. So like if I assign a thing for each of the colored highlighters. So if I have a random idea that's about a different creative endeavor and I just have access to that one notebook at the time, I'll highlight it like, oh, that's a blue idea or that's a pink idea.
Yeah. With me, I actually bring around essentially one of each of the colors. That's my overview book. But you're getting me ahead of time.
I know. Well, no, I was just talking highlighters.
Because we're getting to number one now.
Okay, let's start number one.
Number one. The beauty of composition notebooks. Actually, we covered that and why, because we love them.
But we didn't cover the other part about that you have in parentheses there. So why don't you cover that?
And it's a newer thing inside of composition, at least newer to me. I didn't know in school, like I said, it was all cow pattern.
Yeah, it was all cow patterned, black and white. And I think at one point, probably late in my high school or maybe college career, there was a red one.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. I might be making that up.
But it's a good dream. Because now you can get them in multiple colors. It's like,
well, you've got a stack here.
You've got blue,
you've got like a magenta or a red there and a green and a black.
And essentially there's 4 different colors. I have 3 projects I work on a lot. This show, the stuff for Gardul, the world side stuff.
The world side, not to be confused with the book side.
That's all the same to me. The storytelling side.
Okay.
There's the storytelling side, which is Gardul, my world. And there is also the show side, which is the World Builder's Anvil, which I have 2 different notebooks for those. The Small Biz Life podcast I do with my wife, I have another notebook for. And then I have another notebook, which is called Future Projects. And so if I come up with a random idea that's like a cool idea, like I have one in there about sort of urban fantasy about dragons.
Which notebook is this?
It's
the green one or
no. It is
the blue one.
I believe it's the blue one.
The blue one.
It'll say other projects on there.
This one says World Builder's Anvil on it.
So no, it must be the magenta one. The green one.
Other works, green.
Other works. Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Let's take.
So there's a little bit in there. That's a relatively new one. I got that in Nashville.
Why does it say Stab Michael on page 2?
Wait, no, don't look at that book.
Why is there just drawings of like? Are those my glasses? Why does this just look like drawings of me being killed?
I was playing Hangman.
They're bad drawings.
No, those were actually letters. So number 2, speaking of bad drawings, is a drawing pad. So I like to carry a drawing pad around with me too. I don't use it as much. Most of the time, if I have a little
do you actually draw anything other than maps?
Yes.
Really? Like
yes.
What kind of things would you draw?
I've drawn spaceship in the past, like what Gardul spaceships look like. I've actually sketched those out. Those are not in there. I'm not sure what's in that one. That's a relatively newer one. I think there's some possible religious symbols in there.
May I actually look in these?
Well, look at the drawing pad.
Which one's the drawing? Oh, this one?
The one that says drawing pad on it.
Shut up. Because I want you to know that when I was jestfully looking in the one where you were making drawings of stabbing me, I wasn't reading anything because I didn't know if those were private content notebooks or not.
No, these are all my working notebooks.
Well, I know, but that's still working notebooks. Still might be private. Looks like we've got runic symbols and
I think that's the idea of basic symbology for.
That's some pretty good symbology here. There's a lot of good stuff in here.
And I don't know what else is in there.
Again, a drawing of me dead. What, Jeff? Looks like we have a castle layout. We have.
That's book related.
This looks like a plant. This looks like what do you call it? Like a community.
It is actually the inside of the thing that you just looked at.
This is inside of that.
Like, if you
that makes sense. Like this is all the fenced off area.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you've got. I was going to say floor plan, but it's not a floor plan. It's a.
It's a castle.
It's a castle. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the last thing I did in there. Because normally, if I have a small idea for a sketch, I will just do it in my lined notebook. But if it's something I want to draw a little bit more and I don't want the lines to annoy me, I put it in there.
I used to do with my compositions. Because of course I only had black and white back then. They only had black and white in my day. They didn't invent color until I was 34. There would be drawings in them. There would be a lot of mine was actually for when I was doing more photography. So they would be photography ideas. So I would draw out photography ideas and I would label and I would have very detailed descriptions of, this person in such fashion doing this, blah, blah, blah. you know, and then I would do
most drawings I actually do in my line notebook. I'll only do the other ones if I don't want to be annoyed by lines in it.
Mm-hmm.
And as you've seen from seeing my drawing book, that you need to remove all of the possible noise besides my drawings to have a chance to guess at what the heck you're looking at.
No, I don't think your drawings are that bad.
Well, I'll compare mine to my sister's. And
well, is she an artist?
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so, she practiced where I did not.
Right.
And probably a better eye for composition than I do, at least that way. But
so composition pads and drawing pads.
So now you have those two things, and we covered this a little bit. One color notebook per project, and Mike can verify. Like Michael can verify. Mike actually just left. Michael can verify that there's like 4 black notebooks, I think, 4 or 5 there, and one of those is like a major book for Gardul, and then the other one are specific topics that are going to take a lot of material that I've worked on, I believe, since I've gotten those notebooks.
Yeah, you've actually got all of these notebooks. These are all they appear to be labeled the different cultures of your book.
Well, one's a race/culture. One's a culture. Another one should say Gardul. But those are things I'm currently rethinking and reworking on. So I have notebooks for them, but I only take the Gardul book with me normally. You know, and that's because I had that bright idea. You know, they'll be on my nightstand in case I have the idea once you're trying to fall asleep and you're like, oh, yes.
Yeah, I have
you know,
a lot
it
of
gives
those.
me a quick place to write it down and get it out, but it's in my black notebook. And the reason I like the colors is I can quickly go black Gardul.
Yep.
You know, and some of the other ones I have to struggle for because I don't use them as much as my world building books, strangely.
Mm-hmm.
But I do it anyway because, you know, the thing is, the more I do that, the better I get. And then what I'll do is, I don't want to get ahead, so I'm not going to. Okay.
It's all basically, this first section is a long-winded way of saying compartmentalizing your thoughts.
Yes, in a way where I can get to it very quickly, and I can try and keep all of those similar ideas together.
Right.
So I'm not looking for highlights throughout my book, which would definitely help. That's actually a good idea too.
Well, it's not like I said. I'm not recommending that you do that as opposed to doing separate notebooks, but I'm saying it within the context of a given notebook. You could use that as a way to, if you have something specific that needs to pop out at you and you don't want to forget it for later when you're cruising through it, especially with composition notebooks, because the paper tends to be thin. You can kind of usually see through a couple pages. Well, see, I don't mind that because if you're highlighting, you go and you're flipping through, you realize like 2 pages down, oh, I had something important that I didn't want to forget.
The problem I have is I'm a heavy highlighter, I guess. So like I get highlights 4 pages past.
4 pages deep, yeah. Well,
that's sort of my flaw as a highlighter. So now you have this idea.
That's what kept you out of the good schools.
It's right. The textbook's all yellow.
Oh, he's a heavy highlighter.
So now you have a notebook for each of your projects. You have a notebook for future projects. And that's like that idea for a new novel or a new story you want to tell, but you don't have time to really work on it. Get the basic idea out, and then you can leave it alone. And later on, when you're looking for the next project to work on, you grab that book and you get its own, you shift it over into its own notebook at that point.
And from working with notebooks, like here's something that I guarantee you, and I'm saying you, the listener, all of you have many brilliant ideas that you have forgotten.
Yeah.
If you write them down real quick, you'll still forget them. Like I have notebooks that I have pulled out old notebooks and I start going through it and I was like, oh my gosh, there's some great ideas in here that I'd completely forgotten about. Yeah. And then I go back through it. I'm like, oh yeah. Like for me, actually, for a long time, I was using notebooks for magic decks.
Yeah.
Like, so I'd get a great combo idea or a great, a deck recipe that I wanted to build or whatever. And I would just start sketching it out on a pad. And then I'll go through it later, like sometimes years later. And I'll pull out these old notebooks and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. And I completely forgot it.
And Michael is actually bringing up something here that is the main reason I do this, because I have lost brilliant ideas. And one thing worse than losing it completely is losing enough of it that it's no longer brilliant.
Yeah.
So you sit there and you're like, okay, there was this one element here.
I remember loving this idea.
And you can't bring it together in a way you even
there
think
was
it's
something
good.
I'm missing. There's a villain. What was it?
It's right.
Yeah.
And the irony is the idea could have sucked, because I'm a big believer. I write all my ideas down, whether or not I think they're good. Because you don't want to lose, because it might transfer into something that's good if it's not.
Yeah, there's times where you'll write an idea down and you're like, that's not that good.
Yeah.
Don't do the thing you see in the movie where they crumple the page up and throw it away. Always keep even the bad ideas, because a lot of times what a bad idea needs is time for you to fester or time for you just to return to it with different eyes. And then you can take this junk and turn it into gold. I've done that tons of times.
It becomes a brilliant idea from a bad, even silly comment.
Yeah.
That's why I break them all down in the notebooks. But now I'm not quite done. Most people are like, okay, I have all these notebooks all done. Not quite done with how I deal with it yet. Now, when I get home and I've had a brilliant idea, I'll either grab an appropriate notebook.
So this happens like twice a year.
Well, it's not happened yet,
but when you have the brilliant idea, you have a plan.
For it.
You're prepared for it.
And what I'll do is I'll take the idea, like say if I'm working on one of the books there was the Mysteritas. And so I was working on
This is a race in Garduel.
This is a race / culture in Garduel, a race that turns into a culture that influences the area of the world that's going to be released first when my world starts getting released coming up this year, where I start releasing that content. I needed their writing system and some of their language basics because I knew it was influencing one of the cultures of my area. So all I cared about was that. That's the reason why there's a notebook for them. They're not really involved in the area of the world anymore. They're sort of a forgotten nightmare. Yeah, go take a look at it. It might burn your eyes.
I'm curious.
But essentially, I was at a coffee shop in Nashville, and I came up with essentially the basics for their number system, which is a base 105 number system, which everyone needs to create at least one base 105 number system.
I round up to my nearest 105.
Because you are already there. You're a star.
Yeah, because I'll be like, how old do you think she is? She's about 105. What? She's like 42. I was rounding up to my nearest 105. Yeah, Jeff's actually got like a whole, like it almost looks like Braille or some sort of weird, what do you call it? Morse code written out. What it almost
is the numbering
like.
system, and there are specific reasons why it looks that way, which I will not go into right now.
And he's got his own alphabet, and yeah.
But essentially, the Braille looking stuff Braille's bad because it's not lifted off of the page. It is, like I said, Morse code looking is, I think, a fair thing to call it. It's the way they do their numbering, and they don't have sort of numbers the way we do. So that's the way like they start developing their numbers, and their system developed this 105 system. So doing math is really complicated in a way because you have to remember 105 characters.
Yeah.
So when you start multiplying stuff together, it all works the same. But, 2 digits.
What number is that? 1174.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So 2 digits are like, up to 210. Actually 208 because you have 0.
Right.
But yeah.
I get you.
And they do have a 0, which is important to them. And to really.
Everything. 0 is the most important.
Did you listen to the last episode and watch the story of math?
Yes.
Yeah. Of course, Mike has seen it since then. So he knows the importance of 0. So
I knew the importance of 0 before that.
I actually now I have a file on my computer and actually on my Google Drive that actually has that number system worked out in there now. So it's formalized and permanent. I could lose the notebook. I've not lost that number because now, and I actually tweaked it a little bit when I got into actually creating it.
Let me take you back because I derailed you. You were saying that when you have so you've got your notebooks and you're writing stuff in the notebooks, and then you have a brilliant idea one day, you come home. That's what you were actually trying to talk about.
And now that's what I'm talking about right now.
Okay.
I turn it into electronic files, which I put out in my Google Drive, or you want to make sure they're backed up. So if your computer craps out, you
where there's a house fire or whatever.
So, now I have a document where I actually have this whole numbering system. I've not created their alphabet yet because their alphabet is based off of the Mesoamerican alphabet or the Mayan alphabet, which if you look at it like as a layperson, you would think it's hieroglyphics, but it's not. And so there's a core concept I came up with for their alphabet, which is going to become the actual alphabet for a different culture, which is really all I was doing, but I came up with stuff. So I just kept putting in that notebook. But now I have a bunch of stuff for a culture I'll be working on later. I'll never forget it. And I have that backdrop that I need to move forward with another culture that I am working on, because I wanted this to influence that culture. So I needed to get there to influence this other culture. But now I have it forever. It's on the computer. It backs up. If my house burns up, my computer's stolen, my notebooks are taken and brutally burned in front of me, I will still have my data unless they take out all of Google.
So you've been reading my notebook, because that's my plan to do to you.
That's why I came up with a system.
No, I mean, I'm going to burn your notebooks in front of you, and I'm going to take down Google.
Well, oh, shit.
You haven't found the notebook with my anti-Google plan.
Yeah, I didn't find your orange notebook yet. Oh, curses. But
foiled again. Quick segue. And if you haven't seen this, try to find it. There's a great D&D role-playing like comic strip where it's all the guys from He-Man playing a tabletop version of He-Man.
So they're the players, not
they're the players.
Okay.
So Beastman is the game master, and they're all playing, and like, okay, he's like, you're tied up, you got hurt, you've been knocked out, blah, blah, blah. And then Skeletor's like, so it's up to me again. He's that player. And he's like, all right, well, I rolled a 10. So do I have the power? And Beastman is like, you do not, in fact, have the power. And then Skeletor's raising his hands over his head. He's like, curses!
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was totally funny. I saw that, and I immediately thought...
Especially if you know those two things.
Right.
That's really awesome.
It's such a great mashup. I immediately thought of you.
Yeah.
So He-Man and D&D fans, look that up. It's totally worth it. It's funny.
And then the final thing is, carry them with you. Like, I have a backpack I carry with me. I don't always take my laptops with me. I have one laptop, which is sort of a desktop computer in the form of a laptop, which I carry only around the house because
it's valuable.
Well, it's valuable, and it's like 15 pounds. But it's super nasty for gaming or for processing video, or if you see my map program with my entire world and CAD objects opened up on the slower computer, you'd see why you need a bit of a powerful computer for certain things. Mm-hmm. But now, the other thing to keep in mind is, or like I said, on your nightstand when you're at home. But that way, if you have the bright idea at work, you don't have to sit there and go, well, I'll have to write this down at lunch. Or, you have the notebook there. You look over your shoulder. You write the notebook as soon as you can. Or, you don't have to sit there and peck away if you're like me on your phone trying to store the idea.
Yeah, I have to do that sometimes.
The only time I go straight to file are for show topics, where Michael and I, but not Mike. He's not allowed.
Yeah, we kicked him out a while
ago. We actually have a shared document on Google Docs. So when we come up with ideas, either one of us can get to the same document and just type it in. And then it might get moved around where we actually do the episode. But if we have a brilliant idea, which we haven't yet, but we have a plan for when we do.
And whenever Jeff has a couple of ideas, I usually go in and delete them, or I'll put my name next to them. So later when he forgets, as we've mentioned, you forget, he doesn't realize that all the good ideas were his, but they weren't.
Wow, Mike did every episode topic last year. I'm a slacker.
Boy, it's a good thing Michael's here.
I mean, even before he was the co-host, he did all of those too.
How did he come up with episodes 50 through 79? He wasn't even around. Boy, he's good.
He's that good.
He's that good.
But now I have one other notebook I carry with me, and it's a Spark Planner. And
I'm sorry, Spark?
Yeah, it's like a brand name.
Okay, Spark Planner.
And this is one my wife found off of Kickstarter.
Okay.
And so we bought them even though it was February, but they were that cool because the idea is essentially it allows you to sort of have a monthly calendar and a weekly calendar. And what you do is you have your monthly goals. And so we did a goal episode here.
Yep.
So essentially my goals for that month, the things I want to try and get done for that month, I can try and line up with my goals and say, okay, do I have everything covered that I'm trying to move forward? And then you can do a 31-day challenge. You write down a little action plan that makes you sign off on it. So you are lying to yourself if you don't work on your stuff. And then every week you can do the same thing as well too, to where you can follow up because life does happen, and say, okay, these are my new goals for this week. You can reflect if you want to. There are monthly, yearly goals, but I'll put like my important stuff like doctor's appointments in the monthly one so I know I have them. And then I'll go through and I can try and schedule out when I know I have time. I can get this done there. I can get that done there. But it helps me make sure my goal planning is moving me towards where I want to be. And then I'm actually doing at least a few things every week to get towards my goals. So whether it's for the World Builders Anvil or it's for writing for Garduel or
just something personal
for work. I have work stuff in here as well too. But I'll flip it over to February.
I actually, the
only problem is if you lose that notebook, then you don't do your goal planning for the week. So
I was weird about planners for a while there. For about 5 or 6 years, I had a yearly planner every year, and I used them. And they were great about organizing. And then for 1 year, I got one, and I just stopped using it, and I barely touched it that year. And then I got one the following year, and I didn't use it at all. Yeah. And I was like, why? What's different? Why am I not using this? And I'm not finding it helpful anymore. But I really think I want to get back to using one.
Well, I think especially, part of it is having those goals that you want to get to in 3 to 5 years, or even just this 1 year. What do you want to get done? Changes. And sometimes you have to make conscious decisions to actually change your goals.
See, all right. This is one thing that I had one book, one of my favorite planners. I forget how it had it set up, but it had it set up in a fashion where your weekly layout. See, the problem with a weekly layout in a planner is a planner tends to have a left and a right side to a page, which splits the pages up evenly, and a week has 7 days. And that means usually what they do is they shortchange Saturday and Sunday, and they squish them into one day space.
Half.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I usually have more things going on Saturday and Sunday than I do during the week.
Especially
so I need
if it's
more
for
time.
Just work.
Right.
That's right.
So this planner had 4 spaces on each page. So 8. And it was all 7 days of the week, plus an extra space for notes.
Okay.
Which I was like, well, that's great because now I have the same amount of space for each day. And Saturday and Sunday are not truncated that I can't fit all the stuff that I usually will plan for the weekends. But this is cool. I like the goals of the week thing.
Yeah.
It's just it's a neat way to organize it.
Yeah, because like before that, I use Google Calendars and I create blocks of time where I'm working on this kind of content. I'm working on this kind of content.
They're big on digital organizers that way.
I had Nosby, which is a very quick way to keep a task list. But the problem is neither one of those help you keep focused on your goals. And the thing I like about that book is, one, I can quickly do it in the morning on Monday, and I have my whole week sketched out ahead of time because I think of weeks from Monday to Sunday.
This is also a very sturdily built book, and there are 2 built-in bookmarkers in it. This is a decent. So the Spark planner.
So check it out. Maybe it might be too late in this year to buy a yearly planner. That's the one flaw from you. You kind of need them at the beginning of the year.
So in your new composition notebook, add a note that you'll be buying a planner at the beginning of next year.
And this one might not be perfect for you. But there are, like I said, there are tons of different kinds out there. But you want one that will bring your goals and your items, all of the things together in one spot. And that way you don't forget to go to the dentist. But you might want to.
What, forget? So what's the next number on the list here?
We are done. We're
Was that it? Really?
Yeah, that is it.
I feel like, all right, well, you want to run through the list again real quick?
So quickly to go through the important parts, get some beautiful composition notebooks of different colors. A drawing pad, if you're a bit of a snob like me, that sometimes wants to see it with outlines because your drawing is exquisite. I could sell it, but I refuse. It's that good. Ignore what I said.
I know you're trying to sell something right now.
Use the different colors to help quickly identify which projects the composition notebooks are from. And then once you have that, make sure to always have one that's your future thoughts, your someday ideas. That way you have a place to store all of those too. Once you have all of those together, if you take something from a book and you're going to need a lot of material on that one subject, like for my world building, for cultures or states, they'll end up having their own notebook while I'm working on them. But don't forget, when you get home, take what you've developed when you're at the coffee shop or at lunch at work and put it into your computer and back it up somewhere. If you use Google Drive or if you've got backup software or Dropbox is the other one, like Google Drive, that's pretty popular. If you have one of those, get them up and out there so you never lose your data. And once you have all of that done, and this is one I actually skipped, so it's good we're recapping. If I make a drawing for something, and I just thought of this today, that's the reason why there's stuff in the drawing pad, take out that drawing piece of paper, put it in the notebook so you have it all in one spot to further consolidate the stuff. For drawings, if you're not good at doing computer drawings, which I'm not, just to take a picture of it and
save the PDF
save the picture of it.
Share the JPEG or whatever.
And then essentially make sure to have them close at hand wherever you go. And next year in December, make sure to have a planner for the next year to carry that around with you as well, too. So you can have so much paper in your back, you're losing weight while you're walking, too. It's like an exercise program, really.
You actually kind of
made that last thing up.
Well, no. You kind of cut into our tasks of the day on that. So,
well, okay.
We'll go through them quick anyway. So the world builder task of the day?
Create a notebook for your current project and future project.
And you bit into the real world project, which is keep the notebooks close to you at all times.
Yes, but there's a reason why I did that. If you notice, that's also number 8, because it's just that important.
I see. So you're just covering it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't help you at all to have an organizational system or an information storage system if you don't use it. And
there's other ways you could do it too, like with microphones. I've played with that before. The problem is sometimes you feel very awkward, like, okay, now the Mysterious elves,
you're talking to yourself.
You're talking to yourself in the bathroom or something. There's other noises where you're at, so it's interference.
See, I don't mind that so much, but I actually do that at work. Like if I'm at work and I do a lot of stuff where I'll be on location at a site by myself, and I'll run into stuff or there'll be information that my supervisor needs. I'll take a short video and I'll be like, well, here is the installation, and you'll see my hand come into the side of the frame, and I'll be like pointing at things. I'll be like, this is this is that.
That's a very good idea for work stuff.
Yeah, for recording information.
But when you're at work at lunch and you're talking about, okay, and then they'll all be killed.
And the elves and the trolls. And Jeff, we need to talk to you about the server crashing. Yes. 1 moment. The goblins.
Yeah, so that's more my concern. Sometimes people might think some of the stuff I'm saying into my recorder on the phone sounds a little crazy.
Then the entire race will be slaughtered.
And you'll also find over time one of the side benefits of retyping it when you get home.
Memory.
Exactly. It helps put it into your long-term memory. So hopefully when you go back to it, it won't be quite as gone.
Tease me, Jeff.
You jerk.
No. I meant tease me with the next episode.
Next episode.
Yes.
Okay. The next episode will be the power of tabletop gaming for world building.
Now, do we want to do a super tease? I want to do a super tease. Nope. You want to let me do the super tease? No. Can I do a tease of the tease?
Okay.
There's something big coming. So, power of tabletop gaming for world building. There's something big coming.
Yes, Michael's excited. And as always, make sure to go to gardul.com. That's GARDUL.com for the show notes. It'll be under podcasting, World Builders Anvil. That's a great place to get all of the information from the episode that you've just listened to and to see all the resources that we've talked about in this episode. Thanks for joining us in this episode of the World Builders Anvil. Please be sure to rate and review us in iTunes, and please help get the word out to your friends about our show. And join me, Jeffrey W. Ingram at Gardul.com, to see the progress of my world and learn why I made the choices I did. And please contact me and let me know the topics you would love to hear in the future. Now strike while the myth rolls high.